Why fourth wave feminism is Hillary Clinton feminism. Ugh, I can't even. Catcalling is literally the worst. It is the embodiment of the constant struggle we have to go through as women. I'm so glad for the website Jezebel. They tell it like it is and take it a step further than my gender studies professor does. I think she's afraid of angering all the dude bros in the class. I don't mean to invalidate your experience, but you should really make your feminism less white. I'm a black woman and Jezebel is so last decade. Now I read Everyday Feminism, which is intersectional. I'm sure we both get catcalled all the time, but it's worse for me because I am also marginalized by my race with every lewd comment. Either it's an overly aggressive man of color overcompensating his male aggression into a come-on towards me due to society oppressing him, or it's a white man exercising patriarchal control over my beautiful black body. I'm attacked at all angles. Well, guess what, cis scum? I want you to check out Tumblr. You're really pretty and everything, but that means you need to check your privilege because I don't have the luxury of merely being desired. I am not fortunate enough to be simply catcalled. I literally fear for my life every time a man comments about my appearance as a trans woman of color. Hey. It's Prince of Queens, and that was my dramatic rendition of fourth wave feminism. I hope it gave you a brief overview of how it operates. Basically, it's blog and social media-driven feminism that calls itself intersectional. The Wikipedia entry of fourth wave feminism says it was started around 2008, which is not so oddly the first year Hillary Clinton ran for president, but from my observation, the movement didn't really get going until 2012 or 13 or so. It now seems pretty obvious to me that the regressive left and the Democratic Party began trying heavily to put Clinton into office in 2016, around the time Obama was secure in the second term of his presidency. So why wouldn't they pile on the money starting in 2012 to ensure everybody believed feminism was the most important cultural issue of our times by 2016? They likely paid for the faulty campus rape statistical data and everything. But I have no proof of any of this. Just think about it. Sure, I have no proof that the Clinton Foundation pumped money into feminist blogs like Jezebel, which started in 2007, a year before she first ran, or Everyday Feminism, which was founded in 2012 and became the most circulated feminist blog on the internet within a few short years. No proof, but considering we do know that Everyday Feminism smeared Sanders, as I made clear in my Boycott Everyday Feminism video, and considering we do know that the New York Times, CNN, MSNBC, and even NPR has been biased in her favor, and also that she has paid at least $1 million to hire people to troll the internet during this election, well, there's no proof of this, but how hard is it to imagine that she pumped money into feminist blogs and even Twitter and Facebook so that they would side with her fourth wave feminist minions? If you cannot fathom this still, well, go watch some Sargon videos or something. I have no patience for you. The third and fourth wave of feminism are a lot more connected to the second wave of feminism was to the third wave, which is why this distinction is confusing to people. You see, third wave feminism never completely went away because it was spawned by the infancy of gender studies departments in the late 80s, but mostly peaked during the early 90s, then mostly faded into obscurity during the Bush era, though they never changed their tune a whole bunch. In fact, the true fanatics of the third wave have morphed into fourth wavers, and they have seemingly been rewarded the authoritarian power they always wanted in recent years. There are 4 distinct differences I want to make clear about third and fourth wave feminism. The first is that while third wave feminism was largely confined to gender studies departments that few people, even on university campuses, really took seriously, the greater cultural movement was largely an underground thing. Kathleen Hanna of Le Tigre and Bikini Kill was one of the great cultural icons associated with the movement, but she was a punk rocker who largely wouldn't do interviews for a long time because they kept misrepresenting her.
Since the internet barely existed during the peak of third wave feminism's popularity, they instead relied on small photocopied publications called zines instead of, say, Tumblr, and they largely rejected mainstream media. It was, at the time, a rebel movement. However, if third wave feminism rejected mainstream media, fourth wave feminism now is the media. It's basically everywhere, if you haven't noticed. The second difference I want to point out is that at least a lot of people associated with the third wave of feminism were sex positive, even though that was certainly not the entirety. Camille Paglia credits this sex positivity in the third wave era to the fact that Madonna was huge during the entire third wave and was incredibly sexual, yet also an intelligent, strong woman. I personally love old Madonna music and some of the movies she was in, so I can live with that assessment. However, fourth wave feminists seem to view sexuality in media as objectifying in many or most instances. Certainly more than third wave seem to. Third, I distinctly remember the third wave feminists that I knew to be very focused on self-defense. They would offer free women's self-defense classes at my high school and stuff, and it was considered cool to be a badass chick that could defend herself. Now, fourth wave feminists call everything designed to help people avoid being victims victim blaming. Strictly enforced safe spaces and trigger warnings aren't what I imagined the badass women of the 90s that I was friends with would really be into. They say that teaching men not to rape is the only way to really stop rape, as if people could possibly be trained all over the world to not have mental illnesses and sadistic urges. Sorry, ladies, but knife-wielding rapists aren't going to read your blogs. Finally, while I do remember third wave feminists being particularly stubborn when it came to criticizing other cultures, they were afraid of being culturally insensitive, I don't remember them relentlessly falling all over themselves to defend Islam and act like Islamists can be queer and feminists and all the other nonsense you are constantly hearing in media from them, which is kind of just untrue if you actually know anything about Islam. Might that have anything to do with the fact that Hillary Clinton got about 20% of her campaign money from Saudi Arabia? Really, all of these differences in feminism make sense if you imagine Hillary Clinton as the queen of it all. Fourth wave feminism is mainstream media driven, and Clinton controls mainstream media. Fourth wave feminism isn't particularly sex positive because Clinton is very authoritarian. Also, fourth wave feminism thinks it can teach men and boys not to rape, which gives them an excuse to indoctrinate young men with mandatory consent classes in schools. In philosophy, they tell you that you can almost always trace back the source of every cultural movement. Very few things happen organically from the people. Usually they come top down as a result of politics, and in this case, I think that it is very clear where it came from. If you don't believe me, I think you should research more. If you do believe me, drop me a like and stay tuned.